Hey, what's going on? Welcome to The Rational Live. It is January 15th, 2021. I had to double check the date to make sure I wrote 2021 and not 2020. This is the first live stream, or I should say the first normal Friday live stream of this year. It's been quite a while. I've had a lot going on over the past few weeks, but trying to get back into the swing of things now. A lot of stuff to talk about today. So let me, before I even give you a preview of what's coming up, of course, rationalnational.com/join. I now have an extra mouth to feed. No, I'm not going to pull that card, but I do. But of course, if you can help, if you can afford it, support the show, rationalnational.com/join. That's the Patreon page. You can also join on YouTube or send in super chats, or there's a PayPal link, I think a Streamlabs link below the video as well. Various ways to help the show, help support me, help this work. And I thank every single one of you. Now, let me give you a little preview of what's happening today. Also, please don't spam the chat. It's just annoying. If you're going to spam, we have moderators on here. They're going to put you on timeouts or ban you. Not even worth it. That includes people who are spamming things that are saying things I agree with. It doesn't matter. Spam is spam. Just shut the hell up. Anyways, moving on. So let me give you a little preview of what's coming up today. So I'll be discussing the Biden kind of backtracking on the $2,000 checks and AOC and the squad calling him out on that. I'll get into those details and my position on this. Also, Trump's approval rating plummets among Republicans. I'll get to that, and a number of interesting results from a couple of recent polls. Also, the a QAnon Shaman, or the QAnon Shaman, self-described QAnon Shaman, explains how the Capitol Police just let him go. So there's a clip on that, and also where he is now, or I should say what he's facing now. Also, Capitol officers explain how they got caught in the middle of a riot and what happened to them during that. Really interesting on-the-ground account there. Also, James Comey has some incredibly insane comments about what Biden should do in terms of Donald Trump and a potential pardon. I'll get to that. Maybe the most annoying video of the day. And that's it. I'll take super chats as well. I was going to possibly prep some other things, but didn't work out. So I won't be mentioning them. But send in chats. I'll answer your questions, comments. I am taking more of a, what should I say here? Open and honest approach when it comes to certain topics that I've been a little standoffish about, or a little more quiet on, just because I am done with people's bullshit. So if you want to know my thoughts on things, including some controversial topics, feel free to ask away. All right, where should we start? Let me start with the first story. I swear it has been a while. I feel like I almost forget how to do this, but we will see how this goes. All right. So AOC and progressive members of Congress are rebuking the math on Joe Biden's $2,000 checks, because he is now claiming that it'll be $1,400 instead of $2,000. So this is based on the idea that the $600 is already passed. So in Biden's mind, it's no longer $2,000 checks, it's $1,400, because I assume that's what he meant at the time. But of course, there's a lot to really debate here. And really even regardless of what he meant at the time, maybe what they should be fighting for. But before I get to any of that, let me first show you what Joe Biden said on January 4th. And this is incredibly low. Again, for the live audience here, I try to fix the audio on the fly because it is always terrible. All right, so there's Joe Biden promising $2,000 checks. It's pretty clear, $2,000. But now you have NBC News reporting here. Biden lays out $1.9 trillion COVID relief package with $1,400 stimulus checks. So no longer $2,000, but $1,400. But again, the argument here from the Joe Biden side of things is that, well, the 600's already passed. So 1,400 makes up the difference, makes it 2,000. Now, before I get to my thoughts on this and some of the back and forth debate, let me show you some of the pushback that Joe Biden is getting. So Cori Bush, Justice Democrat, new to Congress, tweeting out here, $1,400 does not equal $2,000. This was also retweeted by Jamal Bowman. And Ilhan Omar tweeting out here, not directly about what Joe Biden's saying, but clearly I think the message here is clear. $600 wasn't enough. The American people are struggling to make ends meet and need relief. We must immediately pass $2,000 survival checks. So, oh, and one last, of course, AOC here. Jeff Stein tweeting out, AOC says Dems should pass $2,000 on top of the $600 from December. rather than add the $1,400 to get $600 to 2K. $2,000 means $2,000. $2,000 does not mean $1,400. All right, so that's the debate right now. Now, as usual, the issue here really is that Democratic leadership is erring on the side of conservative positions, erring on the side of more corporate policy, instead of erring on the side of what is best for the people. So even if you agree with the Joe Biden argument that, well, he always meant $2,000 generally, regardless of how it got there, he meant $2,000. He didn't mean $2,000 on top of $600. Even if you think he meant that, and maybe he did, I have no reason to not believe he meant that. Why not fight for more? Why not err on the side of the people? Why not say, hey, you know what? You're right. $2,000 really isn't enough. From their perspective, might as well add more on top of that to not just make up the difference, but give people more money than they were expecting. So there is no reason here to defend Joe Biden's position. You can say that's what he promised, that's what he's delivering. Even if you believe that, even if you think that, there is no reason to defend him here. Why not fight for more? And that's exactly what these progressive members of Congress are attempting to do here. Now, David Dayen, a reporter here, journalist that I have immense respect for, works for the American Prospect, or I should say writes for the American Prospect, tweets out here, AOC wrote the bill that substituted the $600 in the December bill with $2,000. She did not substitute it with $2,600. Sorry, it's goalpost moving. You can think this. Again, David Dayen, great reporter, a lot of respect. He's been very critical of Joe Biden and his cabinet picks. But why even bother defending Joe Biden here? What's the point? The conversation now has moved. Obviously, everyone should have known at the time that Joe Biden would not be able to pass anything because he's not president when he made that announcement of supporting the $2,000 if you got both Raphael Warnock and John Ossoffin. Everyone knew he couldn't pass that at the time. Then, if that's the case, why didn't Joe Biden say at the time, in addition to the $600, I'm going to pass $1,400? He could have said that, but instead he said $2,000 checks. And to buttress that point here, Claire Sandberg tweets out, Biden is the one who moved the goalpost. In a last-ditch effort to win the Senate, he said that $2,000 checks would go out the door if Warnock and Ossoff won. Warnock posted this realistic image of a $2,000 Treasury check. Want a $2,000 check? And here's an image of a $2,000 check. So they use this as a way to campaign. Here is a $2,000 check. Forget what people already got. Why must you use the $600 as the basis for the discussion here? That's in the past. The $600 is in the past. Now we're looking at the future. In the future should be $2,000. And again, this is the compromise. This is the bare minimum. People should be expecting $2,000 monthly retroactive to the beginning of the pandemic. All they're getting here is a single $2,000 check, or I should say a single $1,400 check in addition to the $600. That's all they're getting. So you're already at the compromise. Why are you compromising even further to a position of $1,400 in what I think is a clear attempt here to try and appeal more to, say, maybe Joe Manchin to support this and other Republicans and really just, again, capitulating to conservative positions as opposed to actually fighting for what the people want. You look at any single poll on these checks, people want money. People need the help. So again, why are you erring on the side of conservative policy as opposed to erring on the side of the people? Last thing here from Common Dreams. It is far from clear how much of Biden's initial offer will become law, given that Democrats will control the Senate by the narrowest possible margin and thus be unable to afford any Democratic defections. Potentially making matters more difficult is Biden's insistence on attaining enough bipartisan support to push the proposal through the Senate with 60 votes. So again, my guess here is his political calculation is he's pushing this 1,400 as a way to try and appeal to Republicans, as opposed to saying, I promised 2,000, regardless of what was already passed, I'm going to say 2,000, I'm pushing for 2,000. Going on here, they say the New York Times reported that the top House Senate Democrats are preparing to pivot quickly to a parliamentary process known as budget reconciliation. If Biden fails to win the support of enough Republican lawmakers, Only a simple majority in the Senate is needed to pass bills through the reconciliation process, which Republicans used to ram through their massive tax cuts for the rich in 2017. So even if they don't have the 60 votes for Biden's I think it's $1.9 trillion deal here, or bill, they're going to try to use this reconciliation process to actually be able to pass anything with just a simple majority as opposed to needing the 60 votes. So my guess is they're going to need that. You're already seeing people like Joe Manchin, as I mentioned, not wanting to support the $2,000. It's going to be hard to get him on board for anything. So you potentially have some defections here, and people like Josh Hawley, who said he supports the $2,000, and a few others who pushed to support the $2,000 because Trump supported it. So you potentially have some defections anyways. You may not need that 60 votes if they go through the reconciliation process. So regardless, I mean, even separate from, the money, the $2,000 should be a separate thing passed, a separate bill, separate from everything else, because you're going to have, because this is going to be a massive piece of legislation with all these different moving parts. It's a lot easier to just pass something separate that is just the $2,000 or $1,400, whatever the hell it is, and then deal with everything else later. So we're going to see how this all goes. My guess is they're going to have to use the reconciliation process, and that Biden's not going to make the $2,000 a separate bill, even though he should. And it's not going to be $2,000. It's going to be $1,400. But at the very least, there are people here trying to call out Joe Biden and his obvious weakness already when it comes to giving in to conservative positions. All right. That is video number 1. What up? How is the chat going? Sonia sends a very generous super chat saying your voice is appreciated. The money is for the baby's college fund. Congratulations. Thank you, Sonia. Definitely need to save up for that, for sure. A lot of money associated with having a child that, of course, I knew about beforehand, but, it's going to take some time to save up for him. Sam Sade says, this is where normal people are vastly different than Trumpists. We are not yes men. Biden will be criticized if he doesn't live up to his promises. Absolutely. Yeah. Conservatives all fall in line behind Trump. And again, a lot of it is because of the mindset between, the mindset that conservatives have versus the mindset that people on the left have. People like me actually care about policy, actually care about helping people. With Trump and the conservative base, a lot of it is simply cultural. So regardless of what Trump is passing, regardless of the tax cuts for the rich or whatever else he did or didn't do, mostly didn't do, they didn't care because he was saying the right things. Culturally, they agreed with his racism, his xenophobia, his hatred. So to them, that's what mattered. That's what they centered, and everything else was secondary. For people on the left, we care about policy, care about helping people, and everything else is secondary. So it's just that different approach yields different results when it comes to the base of both parties and how people react or don't react to the leaders of those parties. But yeah, as you're seeing, both people in Congress and voters in general are not going to just sit by and let Joe Biden get away with already giving in to conservative positions. They are going to speak out. And if enough of them speak out, if, as I've discussed before, if the squad and Bernie Sanders attempt to try and grow some sort of mass movement, some sort of, events, a march on Washington for specific policy issues, it could help to move some of these pieces. But I think because of COVID, that's not going to happen anytime soon. But my hope is because they are still a minority in Congress, there's not a lot of progressive lawmakers. Their only real power right now is with the people. So how do they utilize the people is what I want to see moving forward. All right. Let me prep the next story. So I am thinking about doing something a little different when prepping stories, as usually what happens. I sit here quietly prepping, like I'm the producer, I'm the editor, I'm everybody. So I sit here quietly as I'm prepping the story. But now I think I'll go to a Be Right Back screen. There's some music on here. The chat's on the screen. Enjoy yourselves for a minute or two as I prep the next story. So I will be right back. All right, there we go. That was quick, right? Minute long. Next story is prepped. Though maybe I should have waited a little longer because I got to take a drink of water here. But now, I'm ready. Recent polling has some stunning insights into Republican voters and their thoughts on Donald Trump since the riots on the Capitol. So the first set of polls here is from Pew Research. Let me start with this one. Most Americans say Trump bears at least some responsibility for violence at the U.S. Capitol. So this is a percentage who say Trump bears blank responsibility for the violence and destruction by some of his supporters at the U.S. Capitol. So total voters here, 52% think Trump bears a lot of responsibility. 23% say some. So a large majority here of Americans believe that Trump bears at least some or a lot of responsibility for what happened at the Capitol. Now, when we get down to how these votes split out, Republicans or lean Republican, only 18% think that Trump bears a lot of responsibility, 34% say some, and 46% say not at all. Still, a majority of Republican or Republican-leaning voters believe that Trump bears at least some responsibility for the violence at the Capitol. Democratic response obviously is a lot different here. 81% say Trump bears a lot of responsibility. 14% say some. Now, going down here, this one is percentage to say it would be better if for the country for Trump to be removed with Pence finishing out the last few days of his term or remain in office until his term is completed. So the majority of people want to see Trump leave office or be kicked out, impeached, and convicted, with Pence finishing the last days of his term, with 54% saying that and 45% saying that he should remain in office. And of course, the couldn't be more stark here, the difference between Republicans and Democrats. 20% say he should leave, 79% say he should stay, and of course, the complete opposite for Democrats here. Now, let's get to what I begin to see as the most interesting results here. Trump's job approval drops sharply, almost entirely among Republicans. So take a look at this. It's been going along pretty steady since 2017. Disapprove, approve. But since those riots, sharp increase in disapprove, now at 68%, 29% approve. And you break it down, you see where that is coming from. Republicans now are largely no longer in support of Trump, at least not in the numbers that they used to be. Still, it's much too high at 60%. But that is where the drop's coming from. Democrats, of course, never had much respect for Donald Trump, and only went down from 5 to 4 here. Now, this one is maybe the weirdest out of all the results here. So after Capitol riot, Republicans have reservations about Trump, but most say incorrectly that he won the election. So even though Republicans believe that Trump bears responsibility for the riots, even though his approval rating has dropped considerably, there is still 64% saying that Trump definitely or probably won the 2020 election. 64% of them, even though he bears responsibility, at least some responsibility for the violence. Again, a majority. 52% think he bears responsibility. 46% say he bears no responsibility. But even still, 64% of them think he won the election. This is why, even with these lower ratings for Donald Trump, you're not out of the woods. As I've said before, when Trump is gone, these voters aren't just suddenly going to become informed citizens. They are down this hole. Whether they need a new figurehead to latch onto, like a Josh Hawley or a Ted Cruz, or whether they just go full-on conspiracy and become largely apolitical, remains to be seen. But these people, a large contingent of them, still exist. And the GOP as a whole, their voter base, largely believe all of this insanity. Now, a little more here. This is from the Washington Post, ABC News poll. So this is among Republicans. 51% say GOP leaders didn't go far enough in nullifying the election. Again, showing you that this base cannot be saved. 56% say Trump bears zero blame for the insurrection. 66% say he acted responsibly. Again, these are people that are going to continue existing in the country with or without Donald Trump. Last piece here. This one I like the most. 54% of Americans want Trump to face criminal charges for inciting deadly mob attack on the U.S. Capitol. So, obviously here, even though Republican voters largely are too far gone, Americans in general do want to see Trump criminally charged. They want to see some justice here. And as I've said in the past, I think it's unlikely we're going to see that from Joe Biden. Potentially, some states are going to go after him. Trump clearly committed tax fraud, as was discussed during the first impeachment trial, with Michael Cohen coming out and discussing how Trump would inflate his assets when it suited him and then deflate his assets when it came to taxes. That's committing tax fraud. So he'll have that to deal with. He'll have other potential charges to deal with. But I think it's very unlikely that Trump's DOJ will go after Trump, that Biden's DOJ will go after Trump. But obviously that remains to be seen. If they actually listen to the people largely agree. And I would think you would see even more support for Democrats, even more support for Joe Biden, if he actually put his foot down and went after Donald Trump. All right. I just realized in the middle of that segment that I forgot to record my stream, which is fine. I'll be able to find it later on, but makes editing this a lot harder. This is what taking 15 days off does to the brain. All right. Let me grab some more chats here. Catherine, I'm so bad at last names. Agua Santa, maybe that's right, says, congrats on the new baby. Love the channel. Thank you so much, Catherine. Radzoso says, I watched a video called The Capitol Riot Explained, Leftist Critique on the Riot and American Politics. It's on the Second Thought channel. All right. The Sing on the Left says, Prague Pack should bury Joe Manchin in West Virginia if he talks about trickle-down politics. Shut up and vote yes. People know the government can help. They see the money directly deposited into their bank account. No more lies. Yeah, I discussed this, I think, in my first live stream back. I don't know how it benefits Joe Manchin to not support the $2,000. His voters are some of the poorest in the country. So if he's out there just And by the way, it's also a rebuke of Trump. A lot of Joe Manchin supporters are Trump voters. So he is both rejecting the only good position Donald Trump's ever had, at least rhetorically. Again, Donald Trump didn't actually fight to pass $2,000, just said he supported it, didn't do the work to actually push to get it done. But he's both rebuking that and rebuking the fact that people want money to their and need money in their accounts. So I don't know how it helps Joe Manchin. Absolutely, PACs, whoever should go after Joe Manchin and in his own state, put ads out, do whatever they can to get the word out that their own senator does not support this money, and they have to start the next primary challenge right now. Start recruiting, get that ready. I know it's a few years away now, but still, Joe Manchin has to be, in terms of senators, really the number one guy to take out in terms of a primary challenge. Gina McGrath says, do you think it would be more advantageous for progressive lawmakers to argue for the nationalization of healthcare so Medicare for all would be the middle position? Unlikely, but I think it would be beneficial. I think you are, I know what you're saying. I think the issue there is that you're assuming that the electorate knows the difference. Like, I don't think they do. And it would require, mass education to really to help people understand what the difference is between a UK-style nationalization of healthcare and Medicare for all. So if everybody was, informed and these positions were clear-cut, then yeah, it would make total sense to go what you could say is further left and push for nationalization of healthcare. So Medicare for all is a compromise. But because of the way that political discussions unfold in the U.S., I just don't think it would have that much of a difference, honestly, unless the media latched on and treated it as, oh, wow, this is a far left position, not nationalization. I guess Medicare for all makes sense. I don't see the mass media doing that, but if they were to do that, yes, that could change the conversation and make Medicare for all more likely. But I just don't think most people know the difference, and it would take a lot of discussion in the press, in just everyday life, for people to understand the differences and hope that would move the position or move the conversation in a way that would allow Medicare for all to more easily pass. But I don't think that would really change things all that much. Stephen Parmi says the polls you showed are a result of Republicans, Democrats, and corporations focusing on culture issues, not working class economic issues, divide and rule. This may not work post-pandemic. Yeah, there's going to be, the issue has always been, at least past several years, that the main difference between Republicans and Democrats are on cultural issues. That the pandemic, this, the life that people are living or not living right now, in terms of having no money, having no work, having no help, that will hopefully change the conversation in a way where the economic issues are put into larger focus, are put front and center, where in the past, mass media, general conversation around politics has largely been around cultural issues, as I was just discussing. But the pandemic makes wealth inequality impossible to ignore now. So, it was impossible to ignore before, and they ignored it. So who knows? They could still ignore it. But we're in a place that is just, I think, clearly a lot different than where we were a year ago. So I do think the pandemic will help change the conversation and force, or potentially try and force, some Democrats to move to a better position and really separate themselves from Republicans when it comes to economic policy. Samantha Sider says, here's some money for extra mouth to feed and diapers. Thank you, Samantha. Andrew King says, would appreciate if you could shed a little limelight on estate recovery in the future. The Atlantic has a great article on it. I worry about its possible synergy with corona fatalities. I got to read up on it. Don't know, but I'll check out their article. T-Types says ranked choice voting referendum seems both more achievable in the short term and a better strategy for change. So let me read this again. Ranked choice voting referendums seem both more achievable in the short term and a better strategy for change in the long term than primarying Democrats. Yeah, Was it Seattle? There was a state or a city I know that passed ranked choice voting. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. I say, why not both? You can do both. They're not in conflict with each other. You can both primary sitting Democrats and also push to get ballot initiatives through that push for ranked choice voting. So yeah, just do both. All right, pausing there. Let me prep the next story as I will be right back. All right, back. That was quick. This is probably a pretty quick story, but let me get to it. After last week's riots, people may be wondering, how did some of these rioters just walk out of the Capitol without getting arrested? Well, self-described QAnon Shaman Jacob Chansley was interviewed by somebody quickly after he left the Capitol and was asked, how did he get out? So this was shared by Matt Binder on Twitter. Let me play this clip for you.
How did you get out?
How did I get out what?
How did you get out?
In the Senate?
Yeah.
The cops walked out with me.
They just let you go?
Yeah.
Well, what's your message to everybody now? Like, what are you yelling at?
Donald Trump asked everybody to go home. He just put out a tweet. It's a minute long. He asked everybody to go home.
Why do you think so?
Because, dude, we won the fucking day. We fucking won.
How did we win?
Well, we won by sending a message to the senators and the congressmen.
Yeah,
we won by sending a message to Pence, okay, that if they don't do as their oath to do, if they don't uphold the Constitution, then we will remove them from office one way or another.
This guy is recording you. He's not on our side.
Yeah,
That's fine. I don't care.
I thought you assumed that.
I'm fine with being
Okay,
recorded.
cool. Anything else?
All I can say is we won the fucking day. Donald Trump is still our president.
I do have one more question. There's a lot of people that doubt that you were just able to just go in there and come out. Like, what do you have to say to them that doubt that you just walked out?
Well, a lot of people doubted a lot of prophets, saints, and sages. A lot of people doubted Christ, So all I can say to those people is haters can hate. I don't give a shit.
Okay, so you just walked out, right?
I just fucking walked out.
Okay,
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
All right. As I'll get to from reporting, that guy's clearly out of his mind. Again, he is the self-described QAnon shaman. Apparently, the way he makes money, the way he makes a living, he gets funding online from other QAnon supporters. They support him to be able to travel around and do this. And this is what he does. If this was anybody else, Black Lives Matter, Antifa, Native American protesters, they would not have been able to even get close to the Capitol, let alone walk out afterward. Yet here, the police escorted him out. Now, thankfully, after all of this happened, he was in fact arrested ABC News reporting here. Prosecutors describe Chansley as both a clear flight risk and a mentally unstable individual, partly due to his leadership in the QAnon movement, which they bluntly describe in the brief as a dangerous extremist group. Chansley has also previously espoused identifying and then hanging traitors within the U.S. government, prosecutors say. Despite the riot on January 6th, Chansley has stated that his intent to return to Washington for President-elect Biden's inauguration and his repeated and demonstrated unwillingness to conform to societal rules suggests a pending criminal case will not stop him. Also, something else I found interesting about him, apparently he only eats organic food. His mother said that, here we go. Chansley's mother, Martha, told reporters outside the courthouse that her son needs an organic diet. He gets very sick if he doesn't eat organic food, she said. He needs to eat. Man, it is weird. Just there is a serious mix here of incredibly dangerous people and just full on clowns. I mean, there was I went over a thread, I think during my live stream back, where it was a list of people that were in that crowd that brought weapons to the Capitol. And we're talking rifles, Molotov cocktails, pipe bombs. And you also have people like this who think he's the QAnon shaman and may have also had weapons on him. I'm not sure about that, but just you have to hold these people accountable. You have to charge them. You have to go after them. It's amazing to me that, I mean, I guess it's not amazing, but the fact that nobody was arrested at the time, that they got away with it at the time, they were even able to get close to the Capitol. And as I covered in one of my videos on this, the cops just let them in. Now, there were others, another separate video I'm going to have where cops that were trying to actually fight back, and they were just, I mean, it was a massive crowd of rioters, and only a few of them, they could only do so much. But then you have other officers who were opening gates, taking selfies, and escorting out the QAnon shaman. Just absolutely insane what went on last week. And as more and more details come out, I mean, it shows us that these people aren't going away. They're going to attempt to be at the inauguration. They're going to, as the FBI has said, there may be future incidents involving these far-right extremists where they're trying to take action, trying to take over, state houses. So this stuff's not going away. And even after Donald Trump is out of office, these people will still exist. And whether or not they find a new figurehead or whatever they do with their energy remains to be seen. All right. Sometimes it's hard to even know how to react to people like that. They're out of their minds. Like that guy's out of his mind. It's insane. All right, let me grab some chats here. Mama Bear Dragon says the cops are sympathetic to Trump supporters. Notice the difference in treatment from BLM protesters? Absolutely. Yeah, I have another video on that coming up in a minute. Fanon International Boxing Channel, thank you for your super chat. Michelle Smale says, what do you think of single-payer federalism as proposed by Ro Khanna? Could it at least start a trickle of states with single-payer to build momentum and beef up medical infrastructure? So, yeah, I don't have a fully formed opinion on this yet. I think it's possible in some states. I think it's possible in California, possible in New York to pass their own, single payer, and maybe help the movement towards a federal single payer. But there's also the argument that you could use where states like Vermont that I think attempted to get a universal healthcare system passed. For some reason, it didn't work out, and now they're blaming the fact that the taxes were too much for people to swallow, and that it hurt the ability for single payer or universal healthcare to have any real momentum going forward. So if it fails in a state, that definitely will hurt the movement. That's the one threat, because single payer, national will succeed because you see it in other countries. You see it in Canada. You see other universal systems around the globe. But in terms of state by state, it may or may not work. Now, to be fair, in Canada, it did pass in a single province first before it went national. So you could see that as, a potential example of how you start small and grow it into a national thing, and it works out that way. But also that was, back in the 1950s, 60s. So I don't know. Things change. Politics have changed. Populations have grown since then. So I'm not against what Rokan is saying. I'm just more confident that a single payer Medicare for all system would be the most successful thing. If he wants to push it in California, go right ahead. I think it's totally possible. I think it could totally work. And same with New York, larger states with the population there. It could definitely work. But if it doesn't, then it's going to hurt the movement. All right. And also, I think it overcomplicates things. I mean, if you're covered in California, but then you go across state lines and, I don't know, you get hurt when you're visiting Nevada, like, is it going to, like, how does that work? So there are definitely some questions there, because I assume you'd have to go back, unless you travel back to your own state. You would have to somehow be covered in other states as well. So I don't know. I'm sure there are answers to these questions, but I don't know all the details on that yet. So, which is why I don't have a fully formed opinion on this yet. But if it all makes sense, then sure, go for it. But I just think there has to be more of a national push for Medicare for all. All right, pausing there. Let me prep the next story. So I will be right back. All right, that was quick. What's up? The next story is going to be on the more on the Capitol riots and a couple of police who were in it. Several officers who were caught in the middle of last week's Capitol riots are now speaking out about their experiences. So this was an interview done on CNN, and I have a couple clips here to show you. So the first one's going to be DC Officer Michael Fanone discussing his experience.
DC Metro Police Officer Michael Fanone was in this group of officers at the west front entrance of the Capitol as rioters forced their way in. They eventually push him out into the crowd, where Fanone says he was tasered several times. While trapped, the 40-year-old says he thought about using his gun to fight back.
Some guys started getting a hold of my gun, and they were screaming out, kill him with his own gun. At that point, it was just like self-preservation. How do I survive this situation? And I thought about, using deadly force. I thought about shooting people. And then I just came to the conclusion that, if I was to do that, I might get a few, but I'm not going to take everybody, and they'll probably take my gun away from me, and that would definitely give them the justification that they were looking for to kill me if they already didn't have made that up in their minds. So the other option I thought of was, try to appeal to somebody's humanity. And I just remember yelling out that I have kids, and it seemed to work. Some people in the crowd started to encircle me and try to offer me some level of protection. A lot of people have asked me, my thoughts on the individuals in the crowd that, that helped me or try to offer some assistance. And I think kind of the conclusion I've come to is like, thank you, but you for being there.
This.
All right. The end of that clip really makes the clip. You kind of, at the beginning, you don't really know where he's going. Because, look, you know. Everybody knows. The people in that crowd know. If that was Black Lives Matter, if that was Native American protesters, if that was Antifa, if that was anybody else, the response would have been a lot different. From the beginning, it would have been a lot different. You would have had more officers there. They would never have gotten even close to the Capitol building, let alone tasering an officer in the crowd multiple times, saying, get his gun, shoot him. Like, it should have never gotten to that point. But the fact that it got to that point, it's still amazing he didn't shoot anybody. Now, at the same time, I do think he made the right calculation, because he understood if he shoots people, that's it. I mean, there's a crowd around him. It's him against an army of people. He's not going to win that fight. So if he shoots, they're going to grab his gun, shoot him back. I mean, that's going to be the end of it. So it's amazing to me that anybody there had empathy, that the argument about having kids actually worked on at least a few people that helped him get out of the crowd. That kind of shocked me, but it appeared to work. So good on him for getting out of there. And his last comment there definitely made the clip. Next one, though, this is going to be DC Officer Daniel Hodges discussing his experience.
The cognitive dissonance and the zealotry of these people is unreal. They were waving the thin blue line flag and telling us, we're not your enemies, while they were attacking us and, kill one of us. Some of them felt like we would be some of them felt like we would be fast friends, because they've been, so many of them have been vocal, or at least virtue signaling their support for the police over the past year. They say things like, we've been supporting you through all this Black Lives Matter stuff, you should have our back. And they felt like entitled. They felt like they would just walk up there and tell us that they're here to take back Congress, and we would agree with them, and we'd walk in hand and just take over the nation. But obviously that was not the case, and it will never be the case.
It really is amazing, the cartoon view that some people have of the cops, of politics, of these discussions. The idea that, well, you're just going to be able to mob the Capitol, and what, all the officers there are going to be on your side? Now, yes, some of them were. Some of them were taking selfies. Some of them did help them in, open the gates. And in fact, last I saw, at least 2 officers have been arrested or charged, and 10 more, I think, are being investigated. So there were several officers who were there that absolutely helped the mob. But, of course, that isn't all of them. There are people there attempting to do their job, though clearly with the numbers that you see here versus the officers, they never really had a chance. So just to hear like the thoughts from the crowd that, hey, we supported you against Black Lives Matter. How about we just take a look at what matters? Humanity, caring about people, empathy, understanding different positions, how people are raised or not raised, and understanding that, look, Black Lives Matter actually, the whole purpose of the movement is fighting for people, is standing up for people, is putting a spotlight on injustice. It was never about fighting the cops. So this is what a lot of conservatives appear to think Black Lives Matter is about. It's about being anti-cop. No, it's about putting a spotlight on injustice. It's about standing up for what is right. What these rioters did clearly is just violence, insanity, complete disregard for anybody but themselves. So I'm glad to see the at least a couple cops there were trying to do their job, and that the ones who weren't are being charged. And of course, there should be a hell of a lot more people that were in this riot arrested. The amount of protests we've seen, peaceful protests, Black Lives Matter protests, and other protests, where people are just arrested for being there. I mean, the numbers don't even come close. So almost every single person here was involved in the violence. And the vast majority of them are getting away with it. All right. All right, one more segment left. It's a crazy one with James Comey. But get there in a second. Let me check out the chats here. Law Gnome says, would you rent out your bathroom for $3,000 a month? No. Why would I do that? Definitely no, I would not do that. I also don't know who would rent my bathroom for $3,000 a month. But I spend a lot of my time in the washroom. It's one of my favorite places, favorite rooms in my apartment. Definitely not getting rid of that. Gregory Deckelman says, what will happen to members who went into safe rooms without masks? Good question. You're already seeing Jayapal got COVID-19. Another lawmaker, I forget her name now, but someone who survived cancer got COVID-19 from being in that room. Ayanna Pressley's husband has COVID-19, who was also in the Capitol at the time with people who weren't wearing masks. So there should be some repercussions. I mean, they should lose their seats is ultimately what should happen. What will happen? Likely nothing, because that's how this shit works. Conservatives break the law, break the rules, and they get away with it all the time. So you see the same thing with I covered this when it came to Cori Bush. Cori Bush discussing how Republicans were trying to get into the chamber while carrying weapons. They're trying to get past the metal detectors, thinking they were above the law, thinking that, oh, sure, other people can't carry guns, but we can carry guns inside. Are you insane? So there's a rule against not carrying weapons, a rule against not wearing masks. Of course, they broke both rules. And in terms of COVID, yeah, a lot of people now, at least several, getting COVID because they were forced to be in safe rooms with morons who were maskless. Andrew Shadler is a new member. Thank you for becoming a new member. Hardin9 says the left would gain credibility if it would shut up with its pro-abortion, feminist, and SJW garbage propaganda and focus on economics. There's room for all of it. I do think, of course, that the issue isn't, again, you can do it all. The real issue is that there hasn't been much of any focus from Democratic leadership on economics. In terms of the left, I'm not sure what left you're talking about, because most of the discussion I'm seeing from the left is on economic issues. And that said, I actually disagree with you, because we should be focusing more on that other stuff as well. You could argue we discuss economics too much, and we don't talk enough about other issues. So no, in terms of the left, you're wrong. In terms of the Democratic Party and leadership, I would say you are mostly right, because they almost completely ignore the economic discussion, at least when it comes to any real substantial policy change. Michelle Smale says single-payer federalism would be a congressional bill allowing states access to Medicare/Medicaid money and other set-aside insurance funds as long as a single payer is equal to or better than what is already provided. All right, I got to read more into Ro Khanna's position, because all I had seen at the time, again, I just had a kid. There's a lot of reading I have not done over the past 2 weeks. But what I had seen is that he was pushing for states to be able to pass their own version of a single-payer system. But if it's tapping into Medicare, Medicaid money, again, I'd have to understand how that all works. But it doesn't seem as separate as maybe I thought it would have been. So that's something that now that you explain it, it does seem a little more, I think, doable. But I have to read more about it. I Shoot You says, what do you think will happen to Lauren Boebert? I don't know. So Lauren Boebert's the one who tweeted out the location of Nancy Pelosi during the riots. And she's also completely insane, didn't wear a mask, got people sick. I don't know. Andrew Dwyer says, have you ever gone to Osheaga Festival? I have not. That's the one in Montreal, right? I have not gone to it. The only music festival, this is a funny story actually. The only music festival that I can recall going to is the Ottawa Blues Festival. I think that's what it's called. This is maybe 10 years ago now. Over 10 years ago. Like 11 years ago. This is before marijuana was legalized. We went there. I went there with a girlfriend at the time and her brother. 10 minutes into the first concert, it's outside, right? So open air. We're not indoors. My friend begins engaging in narcotics, begins smoking weed, and security there kicks us out immediately. So that's my only experience at a music festival, is being kicked out 10 minutes in after being there because my friend started to get high. But I have not gone to Osheaga, and now I'm probably too old to go, so maybe lost my opportunity. At the same time, though, it's too many people. I'd rather just go to a concert. It's a lot of people, close quarters. I'm not claustrophobic, but I definitely have tendencies to be claustrophobic, so not my scene. I love live music, but as long as it lasts a few hours and I can go home, not like an all-day sort of thing. All right. Let me move on. Yes. Prepping the next story. I'll be right back. All right, that was quick, because this may be a quick story, but this clip is completely insane. So let me get to it. FBI, let me restart that. Former FBI Director James Comey says that Joe Biden should consider pardoning Donald Trump. This is maybe one of the dumbest things I have seen in quite some time. So let's check out the clip, and I'll break down why this is so stupid. Also credit here, Case Study QB always comes through with these fantastic finds.
There's a lot of speculation that he might pardon members of his family.
Though, gotta turn up the volume, bro. Here we go.
There's a lot of speculation that he might pardon members of his family, close advisors like Rudy Giuliani, and himself, either today or in the coming days before next Wednesday.
Yeah, I think that's within the realm of possibility. I would expect that he would at least consider that. I don't know how his kids would feel about a pardon, which carries with it, as our Supreme Court has said, an implication of guilt, an acceptance of guilt. I don't know how they feel about accepting guilt and getting a pardon. But I wouldn't be surprised if you see that. I gather he's not paying Rudy anymore. Maybe what Rudy really wants is a pardon. I hope it doesn't happen, but given this president and his disdain for the rule of law, I think we should be prepared.
And you told the BBC this week that President-elect Biden should consider pardoning Donald Trump. We know the ramifications for Gerald Ford after he did that. Why do you think that is something that Joe Biden should consider?
I think he has to think about that. I'm not saying he should do it. He has to think about it as he figures out the best way to heal this nation, both spiritually and physically, as we battle the raging pandemic. And one possibility would be for him to list all the many crimes of Donald Trump and then offer that to him as a pardon. And the acceptance of that pardon would be an admission of guilt. So I don't know how the disgraced former president would feel about it, but he at least should consider it as a possible way of moving the country forward and not letting Donald Trump occupy center stage as the new president tries to steer us in a positive direction.
Yes. The FBI. It's well known for suggesting pardons to people who are a threat to the country. This is maybe the dumbest thing I've heard in a while. Is the dumbest thing I've heard in a while. You don't heal the country with a pardon. You heal the country by holding Trump accountable. You heal the country by actually seeking justice. The idea that you're going to unite with people that are absolutely insane is in itself insane. Do you really think that if Joe Biden pardons Donald Trump, that somehow all of a sudden Trump supporters are going to be like, oh, you know what? Joe Biden's actually a nice guy. Democratic Party may actually be my party. I support Joe Biden. I support this agenda. Joe Biden's a great guy. We're no longer going to be insane. We're no longer going to storm the Capitol. We're no longer going to try and take over America for white supremacy. No, instead, we support Joe Biden. How dumb do you have to be to think pardoning Donald Trump would do anything except anger your own voters? Again, the majority of the country supports. Actually, here you go. The majority of the country supports charging Donald Trump. 54% of Americans want Trump to face criminal charges for inciting deadly mob attack on U.S. Capitol. But no, in an act of unity, Joe Biden should ignore the majority of Americans, reach out to batshit insane Trump supporters, people that rioted, people that attacked Capitol officers. Biden should appeal to those individuals by pardoning Donald Trump. There's like it's almost like a brain cancer. How far these people will go to try and appeal to conservative voters who have lost their goddamn minds. The only way forward is to actually acknowledge reality, to be objective. Look at people who have broken the law. Go after them. Push for equality. Push to be empathetic to people who are in horrible financial situations that actually help them with some real financial help. That's how you heal the country. Help people who are struggling right now while going after those who have given them no help, who have made things a lot worse during this pandemic, and who have also instigated an attack on the Capitol and created this division and further created divisions that were already there. Thankfully, I don't think James Comey really has much sway anymore. But this is the kind of thing where it absolutely, unfortunately, appeals to Joe Biden's twisted mentality of how to unite the country. It may, in fact, be something that he does consider. I don't think he would do it. I think it's completely insane. I think it's even too insane for Joe Biden. But I do think Joe Biden is more likely to consider pardoning Donald Trump than he would be to consider $2,000 monthly checks. Absolutely. So this is how twisted the conversation is in terms of Democratic leadership, in terms of members of the political discourse like James Comey and, of course, the media putting this crap out there and not just shutting it down immediately. This is why you have to work to also inform your friends and family, because a lot of these people, a lot of your friends and family are stuck on crap like MSNBC, are stuck watching people like James Comey put these ideas out there, instead of actually being exposed to members of the media who are actually fighting for the average individual. So do your part. Help inform people. It's a lot tougher for someone like me to inform somebody who doesn't know who I am, who hasn't watched my videos. It's a lot tougher for someone to just absorb my perspective than it is for you to discuss these issues with a family member or a friend who may have the same idea of unity that Joe Biden has. So for the love of God, though, just wake the hell up and please understand that the only way to unite the country is to first help people financially, and second, go after the people, charge the people responsible for the violence that's been created in the country over the past 4 years, starting with Donald Trump. All right. What a moron. Okay. If there are more chats, I will take those. Also, if there is some time this weekend, just pushing ahead here for a second. If there's some time, I would love to get on Twitch and just sit back, chat with the audience, play some games. That would be something I would love to do if I can find some time. But with a newborn, it's kind of tough. But if I can find an hour or two this weekend, make sure you're following me on Twitch. Link is below in the description box. But let me grab some chats here. Just lost my place. All right, here we go. Rob Dom says, check out Kaboo in San Diego. It's like Lib, but for adults. Plenty places to eat and sit. Comedy and art, too. Happens in September. I got to say, there's not going to be a lot of traveling anytime soon. One, I have a newborn. Two, pandemic. Until I'm comfortable with mass vaccinations, I'm not going to be going anywhere. But one day, maybe when he's grown up, we will go there. But for now, not happening. Ridicule sends a super chat saying, how do you feel about Pompeo coming out and using Al-Qaeda as an excuse to possibly escalate with Iran? Love your show. Thanks so much for what you do. I've only seen headlines about this. I have not read into it. It's really not my area, not my expertise. But obviously, it's completely insane. I think that's clear. So, yeah. His term's almost over. Just can we please avoid any escalation to a war before Joe Biden gets in? And of course, knowing Joe Biden's politics, there's no guarantee he's going to avoid one. But just let's just hope that nothing crazy happens over the next week or so, and that we can just at least move on from Donald Trump and these dipshits in his cabinet. John Weber says, how would Medicare for All fare as a ballot initiative in all 50 states in 2022? Well, that takes a lot of work to get that through. I'm not sure if it would work that way. I mean, I don't think you can push a ballot initiative for a state for something that is instituted federally. So I don't really think that would work. Unless you're looking at, a different way of going about it in terms of how you would apply or institute Medicare for All. But no, if it's possible, sure. But I'm not sure how possible that is. Nicole Ferlin says, quick question, where does Case Study QB find media videos? I don't know, but it's a mix of stuff. I'm sure he gets some from YouTube, from maybe from Twitter. But he also, there's been clips where I've only seen from him. So he may record his own video off of a cable box or something. So I'm not sure. But definitely follow Case Study QB if you want some random updates on what the media is talking about. All right, let me grab some normie chats. Unless some more super chats come in. I hope I didn't miss anybody. Oftentimes I miss people, and it's not my fault. It's the way YouTube works. Sometimes it cuts people off. But let me grab some normie chats here. Control W says, what games do you play on Twitch? So I'm all over the place. One consistent theme for me, definitely, is Rocket League. Play Rocket League a lot. I don't know. To be honest with you, I haven't played. The last time I played on Twitch, probably 2 months ago. So my memory is kind of wiped since a lot has happened since then. So, but PS5, Switch is usually what I'm playing. I don't have a PC, I have a Mac, so no PC gaming. But Fall Guys, maybe I'll get back into Fall Guys. Maybe some Super Smash. Definitely Rocket League. And I don't know what else, but come check it out. Winston says, thoughts on John Fetterman's 2022 Senate campaign for Pennsylvania's Senate seat. Is he officially running now? I heard rumblings that he would run. I think he's perfect. He's a perfect candidate. Let me just look this up. See if he has an ad out. I need to read more about this. But I think he could absolutely win. He's basically like he's a working class guy. So I think he would be both in terms of his politics, but also in terms of the way he looks and speaks and operates. So he's definitely the kind of politician that more and more, hopefully we're going to see, not only in the U.S., but worldwide, really. Because people are generally just tired of the slick and polished politician. They want somebody who they know is real, a real person. Because how long now have politicians just, run on a certain agenda while taking a bunch of corporate money and turning around and just serving those interests as opposed to actually serving the people? So Fetterman is an example of somebody who I think would fight for the average person and is in a package that I think appeals to the average individual, especially for a state like Pennsylvania. So good question. What else here? Michael Jackner. David, did you hear about the fact that Biden is now proposing $1,400? Yes. That was the beginning of the stream. Check the first story I did was on that very thing. So go check that out. Several questions here on my good friend Jimmy. Yeah, let me grab one here. I just lost it. There we go. Sterling Review says Jimmy Dore said Bernie is now the establishment because he's chair of the Senate Budget Committee. I mean, come on. I saw that. Absolutely hilarious. You can't both attack Democrats for not having power, and then when they have power, they're now the establishment. I mean, but like, you can't win. So no, that's absolutely ridiculous. There's a lot of reporting that Bernie Sanders is already using his position as chair of the Senate Budget Committee to work behind the scenes to get things through that Joe Biden doesn't agree with. So we're going to see what the possibilities are, but also limitations, of course. Bernie isn't the president. There's going to be limitations on what he can actually do. But that said, of course, the whole point of primarying these Democrats out is to get progressive Democrats that don't take any corporate money, into positions of power within the Democratic Party. So when they do that, how can you then criticize them? I mean, if Bernie became president, would he be saying, oh, there we go, Bernie won, but now he's the establishment, so we can't support him anymore? It's just completely insane. I'm not really sure what the hell Jimmy's doing at this point. It's a little nuts. Winston says, did you see Dora call Ro Khanna a sellout even though Ro goes on his show? I didn't see that. But of course, that's a lot of what Jimmy does now is just attack people. I'm sure it gets clicks. I'm sure it works for him that way, but I don't see how it benefits anybody. I discussed this in my live stream back. If you're trying to build a movement, so using force the vote as the example, a tactic which I supported. I did a video on it. I supported, in fact, the David Sirota approach, where yes, force the vote, but also you have to look at what are the barriers to getting Medicare for all through. So you have to look at Richie Neal on the House Ways and Means Committee. He is very anti-Medicare for all, takes a ton of insurance money. In fact, I think the most insurance money out of anybody in Congress. You have to get him out of that position because that blocks the ability for Medicare for all to actually get through. Also, PAYGO, getting rid of PAYGO. Congress, or I should say the squad kind of did that. Apparently, they're able to get rid of it for any big spending during a pandemic, but not overall get rid of PAYGO. So there were some inroads made there, but not a whole lot done. But point being, on force the vote, the point of it was to get the squad on board, right? Was to get AOC on board, get the entire squad on board. Do you think calling that person a fraud, preemptively calling them a fraud, a coward, or liking tweets calling them a bitch, do you think that is going to help or hurt your ability to win that person over? I mean, just reversing it. If I want you to join me in my new business venture, you're feeling kind of skittish about it. You don't think it's a good idea. So what I do is I call you a coward. I call you a piece of shit. I call you a sellout. I call you a bitch. And then I'm surprised when you don't join me in my new business venture. Like, come on now. You have to understand, if you actually care about winning people over to your movement, if that is the goal, then there is a way to use persuasive speech to do that. You don't get people to join you by attacking the very people you need to join you. Now, it's different, of course, for people in power who are never going to join you. People like Nancy Pelosi or Donald Trump or Joe Biden. It's going to be a constant fight against those people because they have to be dragged to their positions. They have to be actually fought by other people, by movements, by other people around them to actually make any real inroads. And of course, having an informed electorate to understand that these people are not on your side is also a major part of it. But if the goal is to get that person on your side and you're doing videos that you want them to see, that you expect them to see and think, okay, this is an idea I may join, attacking that person is just not a very successful way to do it. Clearly, as we saw, I supported force the vote. I did not support the ability to try and get those people on board or I should say, I did not support the tactics of attacking the very people you want to join you to try and pass it. It clearly didn't work. It didn't work. At the end of the day, it appears that attacking people you want to join you does not work. So, there you go. All right. Anything else here before we go? Yes, Joshua Sauter with a super chat saying, I've really been enjoying the game Hades recently. Perfect on Switch. I've heard great things about Hades. That's from Supergiant Games, I believe. Yeah, I really enjoyed their first game, Bastion. Great game. Didn't like the second one they put out. I forget what that was called, but I didn't care for that too much. But yeah, maybe I'll check out Hades. All right. Okay. Anything else? Checking Normie chat here. All right. Think that's it. Winston says Progressive Voice will use your criticism of Dora in his next video. I don't care. Progressive Voice, by the way, where has he been? He's putting videos out, but he is not on Twitter. The guy just completely vanished. Probably for the best. Twitter is not a fun place right now. I barely even use Twitter anymore, to be honest with you. There is a lot of paid trolls on there. It's really hard now to have a real political engage discussion on there unless you're muting and blocking a lot of people. Because there are a lot of accounts that have like 3 followers that you look at their timeline, it's all just like attacking people, as opposed to attempting to have any kind of discussion. All right. We good? We good? COVID exposed the fraud of austerity. Yes. That's from Tim Buck. All right. I see most people agree with me, but the ones that don't, have you even attempted to try to talk to anybody in your life who doesn't agree with you and try to get them on your side? Try it. Try talking to someone who doesn't agree with you on an issue. Like, say you have an uncle who doesn't support Medicare for all. Try calling him a piece of shit, call him a coward, call him an idiot, and then see if he agrees with you. Like, this is not hard, guys. You have to understand how to actually engage people you want to join you. Now, if you don't want to convince your uncle that Medicare for all is a great idea, then sure, call him whatever you want. But if the goal is to get that person on your side, you have to use a different strategy. Attacking people you want to join you is a very stupid thing. And when it comes to attacking people like Trump, we don't expect Trump to be on our side. It's about convincing his voters or convincing potential conservatives or people who are apolitical. Same with attacking Pelosi or Biden. I don't do those videos because I think Joe Biden's going to watch them and then agree with me. It's going after and exposing people who you know are never going to be on your side and ensuring that anybody who may support those people understand that they are not ever going to join you. But that's not what Force the Vote was. The whole point of Force the Vote was to get those people, those squad members, on your side. If that's the point, as stated, then attacking them is not a good idea to get them on your side. Clearly, it didn't work. So, who is proven right here? All right. All right. If you want more, John Weber here. Super Chat says, okay, how credible is Medicare for All as a constitutional amendment? Could 38 state legislatures approve this overwhelmingly popular issue? No. You're already seeing, so getting corporate money out of politics has become a constitutional amendment. A very popular issue, bipartisan, in fact. It's passed several states. This is something that that Cenk Uygur with I think Wolfpack has been pushing. They've got it passed in a few states, but I haven't heard any updates really in like 5 years on that. And it passed maybe 5 or 6 states. So you're not going to get it through constitutional amendment. It's way too tough. When you even see an issue like corporate money in politics, not be able to make it through that process or have a very tough time doing so, Medicare for All would have no hope in that process. All right. Now it's time to go. Thank you all for showing up, and see you possibly on the weekend if I have some time. If not, then see you again on Monday. Goodbye.